Alright, what's up YouTube? HCJ here, and I'm coming at you guys, of course, with my new video, my deck profile video for what apparently is now the winner of the structure deck um, voting contest polls, and it was literally a 1% difference between Shaddolls and Sacred Beast, but Shaddolls all about winning. I'll get into it more after I go through the deck list itself, so you guys don't have to have too much time wasted. So I know you guys are very excited to see what variation of Shaddolls I built. It's pretty chaos, and that's just pretty much what I'm known for. When it comes to Shaddolls, when it comes to Shaddolls, I know more so Shaddolls from its chaos build. I'm not too fond of its dinosaur. I'm not too fond of its, random insert amount of cards here and there type of build. I just like to keep it as plain and simple as possible. So without further ado, let's get on to Shaddolls. So like I said, I'm running the chaos variation of it. So for my Shaddolls monsters, I am rocking 2 copies of Shaddolls Dragon, 2 copies of Shaddolls Falco, 2 copies of Hedgehog, 1 copy of Skalmata, and 1 copy of Beast. For the chaos section, I chose to go for Lightsworn, and I'm rocking it with 2 copies of Raiden, Hand of Lightsworn, 2 copies of Minerva, Lightsworn Maiden, 1 copy of Lila, and that's pretty much about it, because I didn't really add much of the other Lightsworns. I'm rocking, for the rest of the supporting cast, 2 copies of Black Dragon Catapult Serpent, 2 copies of White Dragon Wyvern Buster, 2 copies of Eclipse Wyvern, 1 copy of Armageddon Knight, 1 copy of Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, 1 copy of Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, and 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. For the spells, I'm rocking 2 copies each of Shaddolls Fusion and El Shaddolls Fusion. I'm rocking 2 copies of Super Polymerization, 2 copies of Allure Darkness, and 1 copy each of Upstart Goblin, Card Destruction, Foolish Burial, and Monster Reborn. For the only trap in the deck that I'm running a full set of Shaddolls Core. For the extra deck, and this is where it gets crazy, so I'm running 1 copy of El Shaddolls Shiginaga, 1 copy of El Shaddolls Anolatilis, 1 copy of El Shaddolls Construct, 1 copy of El Shaddolls Grista, 1 copy of El Shaddolls Winda, 1 copy of Serpent Venom Fusion Dragon, 1 copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Then I'm running 1 copy of Cyframe Omega, 1 copy of Michael the Lightsworn, the Arc Lightsworn, 1 copy of Minerva the Exile Lightsworn, and then 1 Barrel Sword Dragon, 1 Curious the Lightsworn Dominion, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, and 1 Shaddolls Construct. So I was trying to fit in a lot of odds and ends when it came to Shaddolls. Some of the key pieces I wanted to add in, of course, was more Lightsworn monsters. Trying to keep it around the 40 card style of deck. But I could have, there was a lot of pieces I wanted to add more of. But because there's not a lot of cards that would help suffice that, there isn't, the Grass is Greener, which is a great card for Lightsworn and Shaddolls. There wasn't much access to a lot of the cards that I could pick here and there to dump a lot of things. And then I was also really thinking about trying to drop in cards like Mathematician and Glow Up Bull, primarily because they have ways of sending cards to the graveyard, and then I could have access to monsters who aren't light and dark to help the supporting cast itself. Glow Up Bull, being a level 1 tuner, would have gave access to cards like Trishula being in the extra deck. I could have took advantage of it being a freebie. I didn't want to run too many things that I just didn't have enough room for, or was trying to make a lot of room for, and it was just so much at one time. So it was a lot of things I ended up just cutting out. But for other variations of builds, of course, they are good options. Stuff adding a lot more lightsworns, global, mathematician, because of their abilities and stuff like that. But I want to keep it full lightsworn, or at least try to combine lightsworn. I'm sorry, I wanted to keep it as much of a Shaddolls deck as I could, but also incorporate a lot of the cards that were able to send cards to the graveyard, which I am kind of missing. I don't know a lot of things, but 40 cards can be a hassle. I was trying to think of boosting it to at least 50 to fit in on another 10 cards, but at the point I was just like, it's whatever it is, it's just whatever it is. So 2 copies of Dragon, because Dragon can pop back row if it's necessary. Dragon is a 19 attacker and a spellcaster, so Shaddolls don't really have to worry about stuff like Secret Village and spellcasters. They just really have to worry about cards that would stop them from special summoning, or cards that would stop them from making a lot of their big plays. Now we move on from Dragon. We talk about Hedgehog, who has the ability to add a Shaddolls spell or trap card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And then when it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shaddolls monster from your deck to your hand. So it's really crazy about these monsters, because they're all flip effects as well, and based off of a lot of other monsters. Funny enough, the only tuner in the archetype, because this archetype has a tuner, is actually Falco. And funny enough, there is no synchro monster for Shaddolls. They have extra deck monsters in the forms of links and synchro links and fusions, but they don't have their own fusion monster, which is crazy. I mean, link monster, synchro monster, which is crazy. But Falco has 2 amazing effects. It has the ability to special summon itself from the graveyard when it's sent to the graveyard, or it has the ability when it's flipped to special summon a Shaddolls monster from the graveyard, but put it in face down defense position. This does come in handy when you have some of your fallen Shaddolls fusion monsters in the graveyard, and you kind of want to take advantage of them. Especially when it comes to Construct or Shiginaga. Shiginaga especially, because she has the highest defense of the Shaddolls fusion monsters, and you can easily just sit on her for a long period of time. You can also get into some synchro plays with them. The extra deck for Shaddolls is one of those extra decks that you really have to put a lot of effort into what you're trying to make with it, because there really is not much room in extra deck with the 15 card limit. So yeah, it is just something that I had to really consider thinking about when it came to this. So moving right along from there, Skalmata has the ability to destroy a monster on the field when it's flipped. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shaddolls card. I send a Shaddolls card from your deck to the graveyard, so it helps with that. I was kind of curious as to bumping it to 2 as well, like having 2 Skalmata, 2 Hedgehog, 2 Bees, no, 1 Beast, 2 Dragon, 2 Skalmata, 2 Hedgehog, 2 Falco. So maybe I'll try that out in another build. Just because it does help consistency of sending cards to the graveyard. It helps be an additional attacker. It's just something that I'm still curious about, because this deck is very, very flexible in how the person builds and sets it up. So we'll move on from that to Beast. I think Beast is honestly just the one monster that is just an additional draw setup. Draw 2, discard 1, or when it's set to the graveyard, you draw a card. So at least this additional card, or at least some additional hand setup. I move over to the lightsworns. It's not that many lightsworns, and like I said, if I wanted to do the 50 variation, Lumina, Felice, Wolf would all been here. Maybe in charge of the light brigades and stuff like that. But I just really want to focus on them having the additional tuner, which is of course both Radiant and Minerva. And then I threw in the one Lila, just because I wanted some additional back row removal, because that can be a thing. It may not be for some people, but back row tends to be something that I kind of have an issue with. And with decks running around like Mystic Mine, Secret Village, you're going to really have to stop running into those things, but I do run into them, so I want some outs to them. And then plus, of course, these are the 3 monsters in the deck that will mill, so that's also a good incursion there. Kind of wish I was running Felice and Wolf at this point, but yeah. So the crazy odds are, of course, all of these dragons. So the Eclipse Wyverns are pretty much here to help me go get Chaos Emperor Dragon and add Chaos Emperor Dragon to my hand and set up for Chaos Emperor Dragon. The Wyvern Buster and the Dragon Serpent, the Catapult Serpent, pretty much here as some additional Chaos setups for Light and Dark, going to Exceed plays, going to Link plays, really just easy monsters to get off to the field, and of course they can search for each other. I guess we'll move on. Before I move on to anything, there is the Armageddon Knight to help me send some more cards to the graveyard as well. The, of course, hand trap of choice being the Ash Blossoms and Joyous Springs. And then we have both of 2 of the Chaos monsters that started off with Chaos Blackluster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning, and Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the end. 2 highly respected Chaos monsters, 2 of the most powerful and most broken Chaos monsters. Even with its errata, Emperor Dragon was something that I was considering just to have an additional beat stick. It's something that I was trying to fit in as well, and of course, having Eclipse Wyvern and the Serpent Dragons to help out does help to set up to search and retrieve my Chaos Emperor Dragon. I'm not too big on like a lot of things when it comes to Chaos, because like I said, I'm getting ready for I'm getting ready for Fortune Ladies at this point in time. So with Chaos setup and Chaos formation, with Chaos setup and stuff, Emperor Dragon can make its way back into it, but I don't know. I might just stray away from the whole Chaos build in that variation. But for this, I wanted to at least have, that Light and Dark setup for an additional push. Or if worst comes to worst, I can just pop off my Chaos Emperor Dragon. I know nothing will resolve after it uses effect, but if I can get the additional damage dealt, I'll take any advantage I can. Alright, moving on from that, we're going to go on to the spells. So it's not Shaddolls, of course, if there's no El Shaddol Fusion and no Shaddol Fusion. I didn't really think a necessary set of each was going to really factor, only because we have all these cards that can easily get them back to your hand. And of course, in the forms of the fusion monsters themselves, you have set up with Skalmata, and really much what you're really trying to get your biggest reactions off of is Shaddol Fusion itself, because of course everyone is just summoning from the extra deck. Most decks have ways to get a lot of their extra deck monsters to the field, so taking advantage of that with Shaddol Fusion helps tremendously, because that can set up some plays as well, especially now that CCG has access to Construct. So having a lot of the Light and Dark monsters in my my main deck helps. And then I can fill that for Chaos stuff, and I can easily get a lot of those monsters onto the board then. And it's kind of the same thing with El Shaddol Fusion, but this is more of a card that you want to start using in terms of defense. It is very offensive, but a good offense does come from a great defense. So if I can have access to both of Shaddol's big fusion plays, why not? It's just that I didn't think that the deck needed to be so stuffed with a lot of things. And also I do have to be careful because, well, I'm milling most of my cards off of some of the monsters in the deck anyway. So that is just something that you do have to be careful of there. Very much for the rest of it, Super Polymerization, a card that is now at 2, primarily is going to have a lot of flexibility because of the fact that there's so many different ways to fusion summon. Things you can fusion summon. Whether it's a Shaddol monster, not a Shaddol monster, what cards your opponent has, what cards your opponent doesn't have. When you can fit a fusion monster in your extra deck to survive for Super Polymerization, go for it and take advantage of it. Of course, we've seen it in the cases of Salamangreat because of Violet Chimera, so that was also an option there. And then you can have you can pretty much take the fuel to the fire and go for a fusion setup and take control of the board, which is why I'm running the 2 super polarizations itself. The rest of the spells, honestly, just go in for the fill-in. For some additional draw power, we have the Allure of Darkness and the Upstart Goblin. We have card destruction, Foolish Burial to send off cards, so that can trigger the additional effects. Monster Reborn is, of course, Monster Reborn. And then the only trap in the deck is Shaddolls Core. This card has helped tremendously throughout the years with Shaddolls, mainly because it treats itself as any attribute, so it helps with the fusion summon. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can retrieve a Shaddolls card except for itself and add it to your hand, so you get that recovery. And of course, it is a monster itself that can be played, so you have that advantages of Shaddolls Core. And it's such a high level monster as well, so you get some advantage of that if you want to go for cards like Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree, or Star Eater, if that's also a case of a card there. For the extra deck, I just stick to it. The 5 out of the 6 Shaddolls monsters that I chose for the extra deck in terms of fusion pretty much are just the ones that I think most people are going to be playing in terms of their attribute and taking advantage of it with super polarization. You have Shiginaga for Earth, Anoilatilis for Water, Shaddolls Construct for Light, Shaddolls Grista for Fire, and of course Shaddolls Winda for other dark decks. I think Shaddolls Winda is honestly just a good MVP type of monster, because of the fact that she can slow down a tons of decks that take advantage of special summoning like crazy, and then having a lot of offense and defense set up for her as well. Just remember, you're limited to your own amounts of summonings as well, so be careful of what you do with Winda on board. Construct, of course, coming back to the TCG at 1. Real people did not really think Construct is going to do much here in the TCG. Because just everything's a lot faster, everything can break her, and it's really not much that she can do in terms of her own style of play. But it is nice to have one of Shaddolls' biggest supporting cast members back into the fray, at least so that the deck can continue on, even if it's not at a high level setup. And maybe give a lot of us casual players a good chance to play Shaddolls and have access to all 6 attributes. The only one I'm not running is Wendigo, and I didn't really think Wind would be an issue, because there isn't really any powerful Wind setup at the moment, but Winda can be fit in. The Sovereign Venom Dragon was an answer to going against other dark decks, because you just need 2 dark monsters on the field except for tokens to make it summon. And I figured with super polymerization, take my opponent's monsters and turn it into a Starving Venom Dragon to avoid a lot of their combo plays and mess up a lot of their setups. Kind of also the same thing with Mud Dragon of the Swamp. And also Mud Dragon can be helpful to you because of its attribute setup and attribute change, and you can easily fuse it away with El Shaddolls Fusion or Shaddolls Fusion to make Anoilatilis or very other attributes to help set up for that. If not, if anything, it'll help with Anoilatilis. Anoilatilis herself, let's talk about this lovely lady. Not really much about her, just need to play a consistent summon monsters from the hand or graveyard with spells and traps, so it limits the amount of special summoning there. Which means you have to rely on a lot of your link plays, forcing your opponent to rely on link stuff. I mean, if you combine Anoilatilis with a Winda, pretty much you easily can stun your opponent out. Of course, the queen herself is Shiginaga, just pretty much construct with wearing towers as armor into a beautiful fancy dress. I think one of the crazy things about Shiginaga is how much of a defensive monster she is, but how offensive you can be with her, and then having the ability to negate stuff as well. Same thing with Grista. Although Grista is not as strong as the other monsters, Grista is just an option as well, especially against fire. Now, as far as the rest of the extra deck goes, I threw in Cypher Omega just to have an access to a level 8 and to have some hand disruption and hand setup. It wouldn't be a lightsworn engine if I wasn't running all 3 of the lightsworn carrier monsters. So Michael is taking his lead to help get rid of stuff. And then, of course, that setup of Pot of Avarice. We have Minerva, which helps out as well for a lot of discarding and drawing and sending stuff to the grave. Curious, just because there's so many different monsters in this deck that I'm running with different types, but same attributes. I want to at least keep the Lightsworn engine fair simple. And then just a lot of the other fillers, of course. Shaddolls Construct. This is actually going to be very useful when it comes to just summoning her through her own ability, and that because she's sending stuff to the graveyard to summon herself, it'll trigger a lot of their effects. And then, of course, the fusion setup helps out tremendously. I mean, the Nightmare engine, as I move along. I wanted to fit in Unicorn. I just didn't have a lot of interest in running Unicorn. But I think Cerberus and Phoenix will do themselves some case. And, of course, rocking out with Barrel Dragon. Other than that, my extra deck options can still range, of course, to Babushka, Exciton Knight, Dweller, and Cowboy. I wasn't really thinking of too much of extra deck stuff at this point in time. But there are a lot of big options. There are a lot of other cards and stuff you can easily add to this deck to make it go. So, thank you guys so much for staying around and watching. I hope you guys enjoy it. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll have some more decks and stuff up later. And very excited for the Shaddolls as they won the poll for the next structure deck to come. And don't worry, I'll have information on that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to hit that bell so you guys can be informed when I do my uploads. Alright guys, HBJ signing out.